the agenda?
So moved.
Motion and support. Any changes or corrections? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Next up is public comment. Public, you have 3 minutes to address the board. Step up and give us your name, please. Brad, you moving up towards the mic? No. Steve? No. Okay. Public comment's closed. First up are minutes of the April 8th, 2019 meeting. We have a motion and support for approval. Any changes or corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Next up are appointments. We have the Joint Airport Zoning Board. County member outside 10-mile radius, Tom Schaffner, is the current member and the applicant. We have nomination of Thomas Schaffner. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Emergency Management Advisory Council. We have 2 public members, Kenny Price and Jeff Kirkpatrick are the current members. Last night going through the board packet, I noticed there were no applicants. I emailed both of them. Kenny Price was not interested in reapplying. Jeff Kirkpatrick was. I sent you his email stating that as well as his application. So with that, we'd be looking for a nomination. Okay, we have a nomination for Jeff Kirkpatrick. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. We'll keep the other seat open and advertise for it, as well as the Region 2 Planning Commission, a public member that's currently vacant with no applicants. That takes us to the 911 quarterly report. Director Hammond. Good morning.
Morning. Good morning, Commissioners, County Administrator. What you have before you is my quarterly report for 911 January through March, then of March. The first graph you show is the number of calls that 911 took. These are 911 only calls. These are not our admin lines. So total count was 46,689 calls on the 911 lines. Per month that averages out about 15,563 calls, about 524 calls a day. I anticipate them going up in the summertime as more calls come in during the summertime with the heat. Below that you'll see another graph. It breaks it down by month, totals, and percentages. Also dispatch contact stock, which is the state transportation department. Anytime there's ever an accident on the highway, total for this month we've contacted them 81 times. In the past 6 months we've contacted them about 181 times. They act as they put their trucks in front to move the traffic over before it gets to the accident. So it helps out with first responders and the citizens traveling down the road, so it doesn't create no more accidents. Also, you'll see the total number of calls that we've dispatched to this year so far, which is 28,131. In the various departments that we call out to when we have an incident within Jackson County. Also, this month I had to send in my paperwork for the state. The paperwork for the state is something that if we don't abide by, we could lose our surcharge. So the paperwork's sent in. I actually do the paperwork, and then finance looks at it for the expenditures and all the revenue that came in. Once they have the approval, then I'll send it in with her blessing as well. The date for that is May 15th, so we'll send in last week. Below that, I have some trainings that I sent the dispatchers to within the past 3 months. APCO NENA dispatch training. It's a joint Michigan APCO, Michigan NENA. The training involves dispatchers, customer service, different technologies that are coming out. Also, emerging technology, success communication, customer service. I also have another customer service by a different vendor, but I use both of them. And also the radio dispatch that we did on-site with the new radios, consoles. Dispatch continues to participate in different activities throughout the community. Voltec Center presentation, active shooter exercises at schools and businesses. Citizens Police Academy as well. We teach lean and proper radio etiquette for those classes. PFN, we are still ongoing with that. The network's in. The conversions, actually I got one going on today for one of the carriers. The conversions will be ongoing until we get them all converted over to the PFN network. The Andy and Alley database is uploaded to our phone system. Andy and Alley gives us the names, the streets, the phone numbers, things of that nature. And the texting has not actually started, but all the infrastructure is in at the towers. All the carriers have been notified back in December. We're just waiting on some key parts from AT&T so we can start testing. Last month we had our 911 advisory board meeting. We did make one small policy change that was recommended and approved by the board there. It was letting the shift leaders and dispatch notify the jurisdictional sergeants of a call that happened in Jackson, but now the caller is outside of Jackson. We get a lot of complaints because sometimes we were never able to dispatch outside of Jackson, and sometimes other agencies will not send their department to that call. So this allows us to talk to the sergeants, the jurisdictional sergeants, to see if there's something that they could handle or if we need to call the state police to let the state police do it. Tyler Technology, CAD, we've had about 3 phone conversations with that, and working with IT, it's a GIS going on right now, so they are updating the new CAD GIS with our current GIS system we have here. And we continue to improve in customer service, so what I've implemented was a QA, quality assurance and call intake, making sure the dispatchers are asking the correct questions, locations, and the form that I will fill out, or the shift leaders will fill out, give them back to me, and we will listen to the recordings to make sure we are doing our job and dispatch correctly, especially the call taking and the customer service part of it. And that's all I have for you.
Jason, I've got just a couple of questions, and then it looks like Commissioner Duckham has one also.
Yep.
At the top of the report, when you're talking about calls, that number of 15,563, that's phone calls into dispatch. That is not actual dispatches, correct?
No, that is actually phone calls into dispatch. It's 911 calls into dispatch.
And then that number further down, total calls dispatched, that would be actual calls that are dispatched, obviously.
On the
second page.
On the agencies?
Yes.
Yes, correct.
And that would include traffic stops as well, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then just for the next report, when you report again, is it possible we could get the prior year stats too so we can compare them?
Yeah,
That'd be helpful, I
I
think.
can do that.
Okay, thank you. Phil, you had a question?
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are we doing on overtime hours?
Overtime hours?
Yeah. Do we have
Very
enough
good.
people or?
Yeah, very good. I got 2 in training, and that'd be fully staffed as of right now.
I know at one point in time we was almost functioning off overtime,
Yes.
shortage of people, so that's
I
good
know
news.
in the past 2 years, we've decreased our overtime, 16 to 17 by 63%. And then the year 18 was exactly the same, so we've decreased that.
Good job.
Thanks.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And then, Jason, I'd asked you before the meeting about the new radio system. Can you give us an update on that?
Yes, today, actually, the state, along with Motorola, is at each of the sites right now. They're actually going to turn on the simulcast system as a whole. So by the end of the day, the system will be up and running. Later today, myself, the undersheriff, and Rich Anita from Motorola will be having a conference call for a go-live day. So that will happen today, hopefully.
Commissioner, Tony?
Acronyms
Tony,
and stuff.
can you turn your mic on there, please?
I just did. Every profession has their unique acronyms. If you could, PFN is the only one that you spell
I'm
out
sorry.
what it stands for. If you could include those in the future, it would help me understand what you're presenting.
Yes, I'm sorry about that. And I do have one more thing, if you guys don't mind. Last month, I was requested by Sarah Leitner and Julie Alexander to come to the state capitol. They wanted to present Jackson County Central Dispatch, recognize us for National Telecommunicator Week. So I was able to go there and get this from Sarah and Julie. It was an awesome experience. Just wanted to show you guys.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
Okay. Phil?
Want him to bring that up there so you can read it and stretch your meeting out?
No.
Okay. This is
Thanks for asking. Next up, we have the District Court Grant Application Approval. This is for the Community Corrections Board. I did get an email from Charles Adkins. He was not going to be able to be here for it, and hopefully the committee can simply forward this on to the full board for approval. I know when I looked through it, there's a date in there of May 1st it was due, but Amy Dickerson works with Lansing to make sure we do get it in on time, and I think there was an extension given for it. So if we could have a motion to forward that on, it's kind of a formality. It was pretty well explained in the documents. Okay, motion and support. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Next up is Lydia with the Animal Shelter Quarterly Report. Good morning.
Morning. Thank you. Good job, security.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. So this is our quarterly report for the animal shelter. Just to note, we get these little decals. We have a volunteer that's making details, so every time someone adopts an animal or donates, they get a car decal. And we have people that come in and say, "Can I get a decal?" So
Could you
there-
use your mic, please?
Yep.
Or if it's not on, I don't know.
Is that better? Okay. You're welcome. So today we're going to talk about animal control, our new positions, the shelter traffic, volunteers, dog licensing, our budget, our build-out plan, and building improvements. So as you know, we have animal control is now in the field. We have 3 full-time positions. We are working on scheduling and shifts to make sure that there's coverage adequate for the needs of the community. So that's in a process, but our goal is to have Monday through Saturday. We did do one Sunday, and there was only one call on that day. So to be better use of our time, I think Saturday would be, Monday through Saturday seems at this time to be the biggest needs. We have the ability to write tickets from the truck now. We've finally got the paper in for the printers. So when the officers are in the field, they're able to write their tickets, if necessary, right from the field. We're getting calls from dispatch and also calls that come into the shelter. And the total number of calls from March 10th, which is when we started working with dispatch, is 319. We've made a really heavy presence on social media and tried to make quick responses as well. It really helps to engage with the community and let them know what we're doing and respond to any questions that they have. This is created a lot of more people coming into the shelter, calling into the shelter, coming to adopt from the shelter, and it's really been great. Our Facebook page has grown from 12,000 in December to over 19,000. I think last time I checked, it was 19,500. So that's pretty significant growth just for that short period of time. We've reached an average of 878,000 people. So we've had people sending donations in from out of state as well as, out of our county. We're also adding a donation link to our website so people can make donations directly to Jackson County if they're not able to come in to do so, make it more convenient for them to support the shelter. We've had increased hours. We are now open through lunch every day, Saturday till 4 o'clock, and we're also going to add an evening beginning this week. So we'll be open Thursdays until 7 p.m. So that'll give an opportunity for people who are working or can't make it during our normal business hours to come in, pick up a dog, or adopt an animal. Regarding our community outreach, this just gives some statistics from our Facebook page, and you can read there that we've had a pretty significant amount of people engaging with our post and increasing the people that are liking our post. We've actually had adopters from all over, including Canada, come to adopt animals from Jackson County. And as I mentioned, the donors also. We are pretty busy most days. There's some slow periods, but we have a lot of traffic coming in and out of the shelter for various reasons. It keeps everyone pretty busy over there. We've been able to shorten the length of stay for our animals, and that's a lot due to the fact that we are posting every time an animal comes in, we're posting that it's been found. We're posting every time an animal is up for adoption. So, utilizing these tools, we're able to really keep down the length of stay. So we don't feel like it's acceptable to keep animals longer than a 30-day period. So our goal is really to try 7 to 10 days to move animals in and out of the shelter. In addition, I just want to add some of our new services. Dog licensing, animal control, as I mentioned, our heavy presence on social media, a foster program, which we didn't have before, which has been very vital to keeping the animals moving through the shelter. We've had a lot of appearance at public events, created a newsletter for the public, for our volunteers and our donors, and handing out handwritten thank you cards to anyone that donates to the shelter. This is a picture of some of our volunteer and community events. We have there on the left, we have a lot of classrooms that come and visit the shelter, and we also visit assisted living homes, and then we have our volunteers that come in and walk dogs for us as well. Some of our events that we have come just in May, we have multiple high school classes coming into the shelter. Arbor Manor Assisted Living came to the shelter. We were invited to Coldwell Banker event, Spring Arbor Assisted Living, Arbor Oaks Assisted Living, Summit Park Assisted Living, the Book Cottage, PetSmart Adoption Weekend, Verizon Wireless event, and Athletico. So those are just some of the events that we were invited to participate in for the month of May. Some of the groups actually come to the shelter, and some of them are asking us to visit them at their facility. So keeping up this momentum and keeping the community engaged and to keep growing our supporters, making sure that we're keeping them engaged by offering all the services that we're doing now and stepping it up even a little bit more. We want to make sure that we're attending events when we're asked to, that we're able to keep up responses on social media, and just make sure we're giving the community what they are expecting from us. So far, we've had really positive responses and some good feedback, and we want to keep that momentum going. I think everyone will be really excited that we'll be able to offer dog licenses at the shelter again. We're working with the Treasurer's Department and IT on doing that now and hope to have that in place by June. That will make it really convenient for dog owners to get their rabies shot, their dog license, and a microchip all in one place. So that'll be very convenient instead of sending them to a different location for a service. Regarding our revenue, I put a 3-year comparison here from 2017, 18, and 19. And you can see that in 2018, 2019, our adoption rate has increased by 104%. You can see all the numbers, but we've had an increase. Everything has been a good increase. Microchipping is 271% increase. Kennel licensing, 210%. Donations are up 370%. So we've had good growth just in this first quarter and the end of last quarter. And looking at, again, a comparison, you can see where the majority of the revenue is coming from. It is spread out over quite a bit, but just looking at 2018, we did $10,000 of dog adoptions, and in 2019, we did $20,000 in dog adoptions. So that's double what we did last year. And we hope to see that continue. And this is just a breakdown, again, by percentage of where this first quarter, where the majority of our revenue is coming from. And again, the biggest piece of that pie is adoptions that have grown quite significantly. Was there any questions on the revenue? Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning.
The service you have for the rabies shot vaccination and microchipping, what is the fee for that? I mean, is it one set price for everything, or pick and choose?
It's individual, because sometimes people have a dog that comes in that was a stray, and before they leave, they need to make sure the dog has its rabies vaccine. So we will offer that for $15, excuse me. The microchip at this time is optional. We recommend that they get the dog microchip, but we can't force them to do so, and that's $25. And the licensing will be what the treasurer's set price is.
And the vaccines?
We don't typically, we do, that's part of the reclaim fee. It's a $40 reclaim fee if your dog comes into the shelter, and automatically on intake, we vaccinate all animals. So that's part of that fee.
What's to keep you from becoming a favorite veterinarian spot? I mean, or is that the goal?
No, because we don't offer vet services to the public right now, but they do have to have, if they don't have proof of a current rabies, they really need to have that before the animal goes back into the public.
So if my dog got arrested, he could get all these things done so he come back legally?
Correct.
All right, come home legally, all right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
What series of shots do we put our employees through as prevention measures when dealing with the different animals that are involved in Jackson County?
For our employees, you said?
Yes.
They don't have any requirement to have any rabies vaccines in advance, if that's what you're asking. We could do that, but that's not required.
I know that some eastern counties in the state of Michigan, as well as some private areas, have gone to pre-vaccine of rabies for different employees that are exposed to the animals that could cause the problem. That would be my reason to ask. Are we offering it as a preventive measure that the employees could pay for on their own?
We haven't at this time, but I'm definitely open to discussing that with employees and letting them have that option. So I don't think it's a bad idea at all.
Stretch your meeting out. What is our liability if a volunteer gets bitten? Do we provide the shots, or we watch the dog, or?
No, the bite protocol would be the same as for anyone else. The dog would be quarantined for 10 days. At the end of the 10-day quarantine proves that there's no sign of rabies and everything's fine. But every volunteer has to sign a waiver, release of liability. So, they're volunteering at their own risk. You're welcome. And that's the same with the off-site events, too. We have our council for the county drew up a form so that when we're going to off-site events, that we're released from liability, they're taking on this liability because we're dealing with live animals. So, though we are very selective of what animals attend events. Looking at our organizational chart, you can see all the ones in black are existing positions. The pink ones are ones that we just have filled recently. And the ones in white are ones that we're looking and hoping to add over the next 3 years. You probably saw the program and volunteer manager, and the reason we've asked for that is because that's one position in many other shelters across the country and in Michigan. And usually, I mean, that's a full-time job in itself, because the number of volunteers that we have coming in, for example, our last public orientation on a Saturday, we had 63 people at the shelter. Obviously, we can no longer do them that way because they couldn't all fit in the lobby. And we were trying to also conduct regular business that day. And also our last adoption event, we had people in the lobby and lined up outside the door. Thankfully, it was a sunny day and not too cold. But just because the number of people coming in, we're running out of room. So we've had to find another way to accommodate the people that are wanting to attend volunteer orientations. But having, and with all these off-site events and events on the inside of the shelter, and plus all the organizing the volunteers, that really is a full-time position for someone. It could be. I think it would be well worth the value of being able to provide an organized and professional program for the people that want to be involved. So that was the thought behind the program and volunteer manager position. At some point, maybe next year, changing a part-time to full-time attendant position, just to make sure we have solid coverage throughout the shelter. As we are moving animals more quickly, there's a lot more involved to that, making sure everyone has their rabies, making sure they're spayed and neutered, making sure their behavior assessments are done. There's a lot more work to getting animals in and turned around quickly. An animal behaviorist, that is one I feel like is really important just for liability reasons. We're bringing in animals that we have no idea what their background is, and though we're working with them every day, they may be there for a short period of time. And having someone who's certified in animal behavior can give us a better idea of what this animal is going to be like once it leaves the shelter. It is a risk every time we adopt out an animal that it could injure someone or another animal. And though we try to predict that behavior while they're with us, once they leave the shelter, we just don't know if there's any triggers or background that this animal has that could be dangerous. So public safety is, our number one priority. We want to make sure that we're putting out very sound and healthy animals to the public. So that is why I felt that was a really important piece of the puzzle, to make sure that we're doing our due diligence with the animals that we're putting out to the public. I guess that's the end of the show.
Lydia, I've got a couple of questions for you,
Sure.
if I could. So at the beginning of the presentation, you talked about staffing and operational hours, and you've got that you're covering Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. That totals about 65 hours. I'm assuming that's two people that are overlapping shifts. Is that what that is?
Correct.
And you're allocated for 3 full-time, but you're actually down to 2 right now?
Correct.
And then you plan on getting operational back on Saturdays when you're fully staffed again, I assume, right?
Yes, I think we can manage to adjust the schedule with the 2 that we currently have and still give that Saturday coverage starting right away.
And if it gets to where it's busier on Sundays, then you'd contemplate taking care of that day as well, if it got busy?
Exactly. We just want to be good stewards of our time and finances. Right now, I feel like Saturday it would be a good choice, and if we feel the need for Sunday, we can always add that.
Okay, that's all the questions I had, Commissioners. Tony?
Good morning. The controlled drugs that are put in by law are locked up in a cabinet. The keys used to just be stored up on a shelf where anybody could get at them. Where are those keys currently stored?
They are stored in a lockbox on the wall in the employee section of the shelter for the trucks.
Which employees have keys to that lockbox?
Probably 3.
Tony, can I suggest that probably it wouldn't be a good, with knowing their controlled substances might not be a good idea to be talking about where the access to them is at here in a public meeting if somebody were to break in.
Oh, I'm sorry, did you
Need a
say?
separate conversation.
I thought you said the animal control keys. Did you say the controlled substances?
And I'm sure a conversation with you and Lydia will get those questions answered, I would think. Anything else, Tony?
I misunderstood. There's only 2, myself and the veterinary technician are the only ones that have keys to those.
Okay, any other questions for Lydia, commissioners? Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Can
No,
I add one thing?
Absolutely.
Okay. I just wanted to mention that the extended hours that we do provide now has added a combined total of 43 additional staff hours, so we can provide that service to the community. And I just want to mention also that the residents have become increasingly very active and involved with the shelter in a really positive manner, and our relationship continues to grow. I mentioned we're receiving good feedback right now, and positive. We want to try to keep up with those demands in our community. I feel really grateful that the community did have faith in us by passing this millage, and they have a vested interest in an effective, service-driven shelter. I believe they want convenient hours, a welcoming, organized, and professional staff, and they also expect us to be active in the community and have regular open communication with them. There's a high demand for a spay-neuter program for community pets, which we have not touched upon at this time. But we want to make sure that we are meeting the needs of Jackson County residents and provide them a shelter that they can be proud of. And that's the goal of all of us at the shelter. And thank you for your support.
Bill?
Have you given any consideration in the upcoming year to have an adoption program, maybe run out of the Jackson County Fair?
Having an adoption program at the fair?
Yeah, because there's
Yeah.
people taking kids and kids beg and...
I'm on board. You can do it. Okay. Yes, we do. Yes, we are going to actually have an event at the fair. So in addition to the Jackson County Shelter having a table there and educating the public and providing animals for adoption, we also have a really amazing event where we have a dog. It's called a Field and Stream. Dogs will be running off the dock and catching a ball and doing groundwork through an obstacle course, and they're all adopted animals. So, and there will give us, promote adopting instead of buying your dogs. So, pretty excited about that.
Steve?
Mr. Chair.
I thank you, Mr. Chairman. Lydia, I want to thank you for the hard work and effort you put forward, and I want you to be aware that the board is cognizant of what's needed at the animal shelter, realizing that there's been a suppression of admitted animals over the last 5 years without animal control officers, and expecting our law enforcement to step up and also correct the animal population as well as the human population. I want to thank you for your diligence and work here, and I believe going forward we can get where we need to get to. It's just probably going to take some time. I do thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Darius?
I just have just one question. Excuse me. You mentioned the possibility of a spade and neuter program. Have there been any plans or conversations leading to that at all?
Not at this time. We have a lot of other, just getting our basic operations moving in the right direction. That's not something we feel like we can take on at this time, working on, getting our staff level where it needs to be and our veterinarians. But I know that's a repeated request that we have almost on a daily basis for some kind of spay-neuter program. So we really would like to accommodate our community by doing that without, we don't want to take service away from our local veterinarians either. So it's a conversation that needs to be had further and have more discussion about.
Okay, thank you. Nothing further.
Okay. Lydia, that leaves you with the Animal Shelter Program and Volunteer Manager.
Yes, so I'll stay right here. Okay. Thank you again. I'm sure you all saw my staff report. in a little bit in our quarterly report presentation about the requests that we're receiving for community outreach and just involvement with community. And like as I said, our calendar's filling up really quickly with requests for in-shelter and off-site events, in addition to the number of volunteers who are wanting to participate. Having volunteers is wonderful. I know we have a lot that come to the orientations. It doesn't mean we'll retain all of them because it's not for everyone. But at least they come and leave knowing a little bit more about the shelter and what we do, and they can support us in a different way, whether it's sharing our Facebook posts or just word of mouth. But the ones that we do retain, we want to really involve them in helping with all of these events because we can't have staff people leaving every day or being in the shelter every day just for these events because everyone else has a full-time job that they're working on. So being able to organize all these different pieces of the puzzle that really keeps the community engaged requires someone that can organize it in a professional way and be a leader and provide the training to make all these events successful. And that is where this position would come in. In many other places, there's one person that just does volunteers, one person that does off-site events. So we're combining a lot of different positions into just one position. And we're hoping that you will approve and agree that that this would be a great asset to the shelter.
Lydia, I've just got two questions. One, when I saw the document, I mistakenly thought the wages were going to be $61,000, which is the figure that's in their ballpark. But that's actually with all benefits and everything. Is that accurate?
That's accurate.
And is this request the last anticipated hire that you plan, or are there other positions down the road you're looking at?
Looking at yeah, for this year, that should be the only other position. The other two that we're contemplating should be not this year.
Okay. Commissioners, Phil?
I initially wasn't going to support this. I like to operate lean, but with your report you gave, I'm impressed and like some of your new ideas, so I'm going to support the additional employee.
Thank you, Phil.
Tony?
The funding for this new position is what?
With the millage.
Thank you.
Lydia, it's safe to say also the revenue has increased markedly from prior years, correct, and continues to go up?
Yes, it is
On
continuing
top
to
of the
increase.
millage?
Pardon?
On top of the millage.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, if there's no further questions, a motion's in order, and it does go to the full board, looks like. Motion and support. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Thank you, Lydia.
Thank you all very much. I appreciate you.
JC Dot Monthly Report. Christopher Bolt.
Good morning. I appreciate you too. Okay, some highlights beyond what you see presented before you. I just want to explain that our monthly reports are a compilation of the prior 45 to 30 days, and so you're looking kind of in the rearview mirror with some of the reporting and the language there. So things are moving swiftly, and even as of this morning, some of the information is updated. Our McDivitt design, I want to update you on McDivitt because it is moving. We're in about the 30% design phase right now, working closely with our design consultant. We did have a delay. You might remember approving the contract in January, February timeframe. We got hit with the polar vortex and then some heavy snow, which severely delayed our surveying effort to get the topographical survey done. So we picked up as soon as we could, as soon as the weather allowed. We even had our snowplow drivers clear some areas so they could get some of the survey information in sooner rather than later. But nevertheless, it was kind of set back due to the weather. We will get moving. Our goal is to have Phase 1 going this year. We're awaiting, hopefully, Summit Township's approval for water main design work to go in tandem with our project. I believe that's tomorrow night at their board meeting. So we are still moving forward. We did not let that hold us up, but that will definitely take out one of the question marks on the project so far. Another update is that our asphalt tanks are working wonderfully. There are some fine-tuning issues that we're working with the supplier on, mostly electronics and settings, but we're able to heat the oil as we need, and I can't tell you what a world of difference it's made for our team. We have seen increased flexibility. Rain, for example. One morning we had rain, but it dried up for us, so we were able to just start going towards 10, 11 o'clock, and then the crew actually ran until 9 p.m. That was not possible when we had to place an order the day before and work with a 3-hour transit time from Bay City. So now we were able to kind of turn the faucet on and off as we see fit, which gives us a lot of cost savings and increases in efficiency. So, in fact, the very first day out this year, they kind of had a record-breaking day, getting 1.7 miles done, lane miles that is, in one day, the day that I mentioned where they started late and went till 9 p.m. So they're doing great work as much as the weather allows. They're not working today, obviously, given the rain and so forth, but they will be going strong the rest of this week. We hope to finish McDivitt and then move on with the schedule that I've provided to you in my weekly updates to Mike Overton. Great news. Last thing I have, unless you have questions, is that we received news Friday that we received the National Association of Counties Achievement Award for 2019. There were 616 applications nationwide, and Humble Jackson County won the best in category for transportation, a very prestigious honor for us. And they will be presenting that to us in July at their annual conference. So that's our second national recognition for our new program. So I'm very pleased with that, and I hope you are too. Happy to take any questions you might have.
Chris, I've just got two questions for you. One is there was mention about the Pathway Bar Northwest Schools in your report. And we had talked off and on about an agreement between Northwest Schools and the county. Is that agreement on maintenance and upkeep, has that agreement ever been codified?
It's not yet executed, but it is drafted, and we're very close to getting it done.
Okay.
I can give you a more formal update by email if you'd
fine.
like.
As long as somebody's working on it, we get it done, that's fine.
Absolutely.
And then lastly, I saw a picture of the pothole patching machine. Is that, and I forget what it's called, but is that
Python. The Python.
Fully utilized?
It is not right now. Good question. We've had some warranty issues. So just to back up a second, we purchased the latest revision of this machine. They made several updates last year. So we could have purchased the old revision. We made the choice to spec the new unit, which had Tier 4 emissions, so it burns very cleanly. And in fact, we later learned that was a requirement to get it across the border, so we really had no choice. We couldn't have gone with the Tier 3 older unit. We had to go with the new motor, new drivetrain, and so forth. So we received the unit. It was working well for the first few weeks. We had training, and we ran into some mechanical issues with the drivetrain. So we have been going back and forth with the engineers and designers. This work is being done on their dime under warranty, but I guess I could sum it up by saying we're not exactly pleased or happy with where we're at and not being able to use the unit, but we have confidence that they're taking care of us. In fact, we're expecting what we think is the last part to fix this chain of issues here in the next few days. It should arrive here early this week, we hope. We received assurances last week. It's in transit.
Thank you. Commissioners, Phil?
Chris, what was that award called again? What did we get it for NACO?
2019 Achievement Award, Best in Category for Transportation. I liken it to an Academy Award. Best Actor.
Of course.
Best Motion Picture, maybe.
And I think that was in your Friday update, was it not?
The very last item. I saved the best for last. Yeah.
You have more, Phil?
That's it.
It's also in the MAC newsletter. If you get the MAC newsletter, they featured us with that. Oakland County received an award for an initiative they have to, not in the transportation category, in a different category, but,
And nowhere near comparable to ours, right?
oh, absolutely not. No.
I'm going to brag you up out in the townships.
Yeah, please, please. It's basically a recognition of best practices, and if they give you the award, it basically means, look at this, this is a great example, you all should think about this, following it, kind of thing.
Well, it is appreciated. We stepped out on a limb to do what we did financially, and obviously it's paying off for us, so.
It is, big time, and our visit from the House Transportation Committee Chair, along with Representatives Alexander and Leitner, was a huge success. We took them through the lab, we took them out in the field. It was raining, couldn't show them how the equipment runs, but just the lab was enlightening and very educational for them. In fact, I received multiple follow-up correspondences afterwards with questions and so forth, so I expect to be sharing more as they request about our program.
Commissioners, any other questions? Chris? Thank you. Oh, Doc?
Morning, Chris.
Morning.
We have everything in place now with the oil and the heaters and the tankers and the asphalt. So everything is in place to run relatively smoothly for the rest of the summer, correct?
That's correct. Mhm.
And then how many miles of road on the average can you do per day?
On a good day where we start early in the morning and we run strong, we can get 2 lane miles done, which is down one lane, back the other, so about 1 road mile per day. So, excuse me?
Could you repeat that? Could you repeat that?
It's 2 lane miles per day
Okay.
is about the average on a strong day. And that's using our train method, where we're all hooked up and running down kind of a highway. But if we get into a subdivision area, and we do have some subdivision projects with cul-de-sacs and things like that, you can't really measure it on miles of production. We would measure it more on tanker loads of oil, which would show our production rate. That's just much slower. It's more surgical work to make sure it's done properly.
One more question. Where do we get our asphalt?
We let our asphalt to bid, and so we buy from 2 main companies, Reith Riley and Michigan Paving. So Reith Riley right now is doing some paving work in Summit under their contract from last fall, and then Michigan Paving got our bids this year for Spring Arbor and Summit work, and I believe they're doing our paver patching work as well this year.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we let our bids earlier this year, so all of that came to you months ago. We tried to get out of the gate strong with early bids so that we could have cost savings and get the contractors obligated to us here in Jackson County.
Okay, any other commissioners with questions for Chris? Hearing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Takes us down to claims. We have the claims for March and April of this year. Like we can do them both in one fell swoop.
Make the motion to pay the claims.
Motion and support. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. There are no other minutes. The June reporting schedule says jc.monthly. Takes us back to public comments. Public comments. Somebody's shaking their head no. Okay. Takes us to committee member comments. And we have none of those, so we're adjourned. Thank you.